Welcome once again, our viewers, to today's teachings of the OTR Channel. My name is Reverend Dr. Uchenwachukwu, your host. So far, we have been dealing with trouble spots in marriage, and we are continuing from there. The trouble spots here means the things we do or fail to do which become potential trouble spots in our marriage relationships. So the 12th point we want to look at is addictive habits. To be addictive means to be engrossed in an activity which has engulfed the whole of one's interest, or taking joy in doing something of interest. Addiction to drugs, alcohol, and substances can be very dangerous in marriage relationship. And this is one of the major reasons that couples present in courts when they want to ask for separation or divorce. The addicted spouse over a time becomes violent, inconsiderate, inattentive, unproductive, unromantic, uncaring, and a waster of resources. He or she becomes insensitive to relationship, and all this could cause trouble in marriage. Addiction can also be extended to areas of pornography, to electronic devices and social media. And in any form it comes, addiction is not good at all for a marriage relationship. Addiction causes negative psychological impact to the marriage, and if it is not handled properly, could scatter that relationship. The 13th point is communication. Talking and communicating are two different phases that are often used interchangeably. Now, talking is about giving information without the need for response, while communication is a verbal and non-verbal exchange of information that requires response. So communication connects two or more people and gives room to openly share ideas, information, free of criticisms, of judgment, and grudge. Now, communication poses a potential trouble spot in marriage if it is not handled well. This is not because couples are not engaging in discussion. They can discuss, they can exchange ideas or information, but if they are not done in an effective manner or using the effective modes of communication, then it opens room for trouble. A good marriage thrives on an open exchange of emotion, of desires, and of beliefs. And if this is eroded, if this is not allowed to happen, then trouble looms over that relationship. For example, the husband that just walks in and tells the wife, I want to start this project, I want to engage in this project, and goes ahead, to carry it out without allowing the woman to respond, without allowing the woman to contribute her own mind towards it, to share her own feelings towards it. That is not communication. The same way, also when a woman is passing an information to the man without allowing the man to, air his own views. Now, communication happens all the time, verbally or non-verbally. Even when couples are not talking to each other, yet their silence and the body language from them send signal to one another. And it is this area that problem actually emanates. Most couples do not communicate at all. There's no room for talking. They don't even talk. They don't share ideas. They don't respond to one another. They just keep silent. And that means issues that would have been discussed will be swept under the carpet. And it keeps piling up there. And over a time, it will blow up and scatter that relationship. Abusive words, use of negative statements, ambiguous languages or phrases also threatens the coherency of the marital relationship. Even when there is communication taking place, choice of words should be very, very, taken, into cognizance. You don't just use words anyhow. Abusive words, they destroy the mind of the receiver. When you are throwing words to your spouse and they're using abusive words or negative statements or things that will make that person feel, not recognized, it dampens the mind of that person, and it is not healthy for relationship. Yelling at each other, arguing to win, not arguing to understand, competitive arguments, all these are not healthy in marriage. And so that is why communication is a trouble spot in marriage. If these negative modes of communication are employed in discussion between couples, then there is trouble looming over that relationship. And if you look at all the points mentioned above, all the other trouble spots that have been mentioned, they all zero in communication. Because if all those trouble spots are identified and the couple could sit down and discuss it, they will be able to trash it. But when they are not being discussed, when there is silence in the home, or because of those things, now there is outbursts in times of communication, they begin to yell at each other and begin to shout at each other and begin to nag at each other, then there is problem. So communication is very important and must be handled with care, because through it other issues can be resolved. And if it is not also employed, if there's no communication, means those things will be piling up, and that brings that marriage completely down. The last of the points we want to look at here is sex. And conjugal sex, conjugal relationship in a couple, if it is not cordial, if it is not harmonious, if it is now being used as a weapon of punishment, if it is being used as by way of trade by barter, method of exchange, then trouble is already inside that relationship. When there is an arbitrary refusal, when either of the spouses just wake up and say, no, I will not do it, and I don't care what happens, you are setting stage for destruction of that relationship. If it is not well handled, it could bring withdrawal. If it brings bitterness, hatred, coldness of the mind, and a whole lot of negative impact. And at the end of the day, that relationship dries out. That relationship is finished. And so it must be taken very serious as a potential trouble in marriage, and therefore should be handled well. Now, in summary of this particular topic, this list can go on and on. There could be so many other trouble spots in marriage. There are always crises in marriage. No relationship is perfect, because we're talking about two different people coming together to live together for life. They were brought from different backgrounds. They were brought up from different backgrounds. They had different exposures. There are a whole lot of genetic differences in them. Their desires are not the same. Everything about them is not the same. It takes understanding. It takes coming together with a mutual mindset for them to be able to stay together. So even when these troubles, when these time bombs rear up their heads, and an understanding couple can be able to handle them and handle them amicably. They'll be able to come out from them stronger than they even entered in. And I pray today, peradventure you are going through any of these issues discussed in these teachings, that God will give you grace as a couple as a spouse, to be able to handle it with God's mind, to handle it in the godly way, prayerfully and understandably, taking care of them one by one, not allowing them to escalate as to destroy the marriage that God had established. Because marriage is very sweet if it is handled with godly wisdom. So, in our next teaching, we want to start looking at the solutions to these, trouble spots. There are solutions to it. And I pray you will be able to follow us all through and get to know how to avoid these trouble spots, how to handle them if they come up. That will be in our next teaching. Until then, please subscribe to this channel, like it, and share it to your loved ones. You'll be helping somebody out there to save his or her marriage from total collapse. Remember, a life that is built on the principles and values of the Word of God is a life built on the rock, and that rock will withstand the inevitable storms of life. Until then, I remain your host. God bless you.